wonder why you're drawn to certain products and not others, and why some brands succeed and some don't? Well, our next guest says that marketers are appealing to you with 7 emotional triggers, and she's here to tell us what they are and why they work. Please welcome the author of a book called Fascinate, Sally Hogshead.
Welcome, Sally.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you so much.
I think this is such a great book.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
It really is fascinating. And I'm just thinking about, let's just get right into it. What are those 7 triggers that marketers are really looking at and making sure that we're buying the products that they're putting out there for us?
Marketers use 7 triggers. In fact, we all use 7 triggers when we're trying to captivate someone, when we're trying to influence their decision making. And I spent 3 years researching why do we become influenced by certain things and not others. Yeah. And I found that throughout history, there are these 7 triggers that influence every decision that any human being has ever made. Doesn't matter where you live, it doesn't matter what you do, and it doesn't matter even what socioeconomic level you are. You want to know the 7 triggers?
Let's do the 7 triggers.
Okay.
These are good.
What are they? Yes.
First is power. Power is the control or the authority of behavior. Then lust, which is warmth and closeness. And mystique, which is unanswered questions. Prestige, vice, alarm, and trust. And every decision that we make throughout our day, whether deciding which brand of frozen peas should we buy or which movie should we see, we don't even realize it, but these decisions are being driven by one or more of the 7 triggers. Right. And if you can start to figure out why you're making certain decisions or even how you're influencing other people, you can have more control over your own decision making and that of other people.
But these almost sound like instincts.
They are like instincts. Because, you know why? Because they're hardwired deep within us. Yeah. When you're born, you automatically respond to certain things. If you see a rhino charging towards you, or if you see those blue flashing lights in your rear view window, your rear view mirror, you're automatically going to have...
That's a really bad thing. Because that means they're parked in your backyard. That's a bust.
There's a certain instinctive response. It's innate. It's involuntary. Sure. You know, like when you see a thick slice of chocolate cake, you don't get to decide whether or not you crave that because of the lust. Yeah. You just instinctively do.
Right.
So when you're thinking about that, now, as a company is putting together their product, they have to think about what they want that product to generate, what emotion they want that product to generate for their consumer, right? Is they're thinking of exactly, so I have a product, I want it to be lust, or I have a product and I want it to be mystique. So they think about that first, or the product dictates that?
That's a really good question because each trigger has a different response. And when you're communicating with somebody, if you want to draw them closer, you would use the lust trigger or the mystique trigger. If you want to push them away, you would use the alarm trigger or the prestige trigger. Marketers use the triggers, but they haven't really thought about it in that way because we usually think of marketing as being something that's very rational. Yeah. The marketer sits down, looks at some research, looks at a spreadsheet, and says very intellectually, here's what our communication is going to be. And what the book proposes is that there's a deeper, more effective way of thinking about how we interact and communicate.
Yeah. Now, give us an example of one. I don't know, say...
Name a favorite brand.
I don't know, say Coca-Cola even.
Coca-Cola uses the trust trigger. We know exactly what it's going to taste like, no matter where you buy it in the world. They also use a little bit of mystique. Have you ever heard the story that they won't give away the Coca-Cola formula? The formula's been locked in a safe in a bank in Atlanta for decades. And in fact, executives who know it, there are only a handful of executives, they have to fly on separate airplanes.
You're kidding.
So that if the plane goes down, the formula isn't lost.
It's the same with us, Stephen. Stephen and I have to fly on separate planes as well.
Yes, yeah. Another really, Harry Winston, and we have a picture of one of their ads as well.
And so this
Look
is
at this.
What are they bringing up? What are they trying to get? What trigger are they going after?
Well, you probably know Harry Winston. I mean, it's you know, Marilyn Monroe talks about it. Jackie O had a Harry Winston ring. If you go all the way back to Marie Antoinette and Louis XIV, they all used these ultra diamonds. Harry Winston had a particular problem, though, because when cubic zirconias came onto the market, suddenly having a 5-carat ring went from being wowza to being, oh, you picked it up at the local Edwin Pearl, right?
Right, yeah.
So we needed to be able to put Harry Winston back into a position of prestige. And so in doing so, we established that having the real deal, having the ultimate of diamonds was the most magnificent form of prestige that you could. So we had Mina Savory in the ads, and we had Richard Avedon, who's one of the world's most famous photographers, shoot this global campaign. And it helped reassert the fact that no cubic zirconia is going to come in and cut in on their turf.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay, so if you've got a test that you have, and we did the test, and I thought it was absolutely fantastic. Why did you create the test for everybody to find out who they are? Why did you do that?
Because the triggers aren't just about marketers. The triggers are really something that you do it every single day, whether or not you realize that you have certain natural strengths, you have characteristics and talents, ways that you influence people. But the way you influence somebody is going to be different than the way you influence somebody. We all have our own unique patterns, and if you can identify what those are, you can hone them, and you can become more influential.
So people themselves can, using these triggers, can learn how to manipulate other people in the ways they want to.
I don't like to use the word manipulation. Let's say persuade.
Well, I'm thinking lost and manipulate, and I think it's really sexy. Okay, so what were you?
I was power and prestige.
Ooh, power and prestige is Armani. Power means that you're in a position of authority and you have control over a situation, but prestige means that you're respected, you're aspirational and goal-oriented, and people want to be like you. You're at the top of the peer group.
That's so very true, though. You know, that is true. Mine was mystique and lust. Yeah. No, but I really... No, nobody's buying it. Nobody's buying it. You're not buying it, are you? Yeah. Mine was Godiva. It was mystique and lust.
Mystique and lust, mystique is about unanswered questions. So it's about drawing somebody and making them curious, not putting everything on the table, always leaving a little bit left unsaid. But lust is about warmth and about making people feel like they can be close to you with an open style of personality. So it's unusual to find mystique and lust in the same personality type.
So how can these affect our personal lives then? Us knowing this and everybody going in and finding out what they are, how's that going to, when they find out these triggers, what they are, how does that help them?
That's a great question. When you know what your primary and secondary triggers are, like we know mystique and lust and power prestige, what that means is that when you're being your most influential and people are the most likely to be persuaded by the communication you have for them, you're using mystique and lust. And what that means is you're provoking them to think a little more about your message, but you're doing it in a way that makes them feel like they can come closer to you to find out more about it.
You know what, I can really see how that works though, because you know what, I use the kissy lips when I'm trying to get close to somebody. I go like this, how are you? How are you doing? Would you like to come into my house?
Right.
And that's more the lust. And I lose 10 pounds when I suck these cheeks in. But it's full on lust, isn't it?
Yeah, right.
And the mystique is they're looking at me saying, who the hell are you anyway?
Okay, and go to our website because you can look for the F-score test. It's absolutely phenomenal to find out what your triggers are. And Sally has brought a giveaway for everybody at home. Just go to our website for a chance to win a copy of her book, Fascinate. It is absolutely phenomenal.
Fabulous thing. Again, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you so